What's up, guys? We are here at UFC HQ. The man beside me needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. He is the president of the UFC, Dana White. Dana, I'll get right to it. We're in a different side of the building now with Thrill One. Can you just talk to me about why you wanted to invest in something like this?
Yeah, this is kind of what me and the Fertitta brothers do. We take niche sports that nobody believes in and we turn them into home runs. So I love this. This is, I guess one of my passions, one of the things that I really love to do. So it was a no-brainer for me. And these guys were based out in California, which was a nightmare for me for a lot of different reasons. And I wanted to get them here. It literally, if you walk through the door over there, it connects to my office. So they're right here. I can oversee, the day-to-day over here. And, it's what I love to do.
Sure. You say niche sports, but it feels like Vegas is the perfect spot to have something like this with obviously the NASCAR history, BMX, motocross, and everything. Do you feel like geographically this is kind of the place to be for sports like this?
Well, for any sport, there's going to be a ping pong team here pretty soon. I mean, every sport on earth is moving to Vegas. When you think about live events and when you think about sports, it's about destinations. And there's no better destination than Vegas. It's like, no matter what sport pops up here, if you live in Cleveland, Ohio, what's the away game you're going to go to that year? You're going to Vegas. I mean, you could literally fly in. Let's say you go to an NFL game, right? You could come in on a Wednesday and have the best time of your life from Wednesday to Sunday, and then the game's on Sunday. It's just that Vegas is such a no-brainer. This should have happened a lot sooner than it did, but everybody was so freaked out by the gambling side of it. And then once they got over it, I mean, this place is just exploding now.
Yeah, you've been in the city for a long time. It's starting to become not just the fight capital of the world, but the sports capital of the world. Did any part of you, when you were growing up, think that Vegas would boom like this in the sports scene?
Oh, it made sense. I mean, it always should have. When I grew up here, UNLV was the biggest thing in the world here. It was huge. So just from that, you could tell that this was going to be a big sports town. But then next that came in, the first big sport that was here was boxing. And then UFC was next. So it basically went UNLV, boxing, UFC.
For sure. Obviously, International Fight Week. I'm sure you've had a hectic last 2 weeks having to get this card back together again, everything. But the main event with Alex and Yuri, it's one of those where it is absolutely 100% fan friendly. Just how impressed are you of both of these guys? Not just Alex, since we know how he's willing to take short notice fights, but also Yuri being able to step up in the main event where all eyes are going to be on them.
Yeah, the main event is incredible. And obviously, yeah, getting two nasty guys like this to step up on short notice and take it. And tell you the truth, the co-main event too. I mean, this is what I guarantee you. One of those two fights, the co-main event or the main event, are going to be the fight of the night. I don't know which one, but it's definitely going to be one of them. So I'm excited for Saturday.
Sure. Would you say this is one of the craziest 2 weeks that you've had in terms of fights falling through and everything and you having to reschedule them? Because it's not just this card, obviously the UFC Saudi card and everything. Would you say this has been the craziest 2 weeks you've had, just picking the pieces up together?
It's been crazy. It hasn't been the craziest. There's many crazy days here. And throughout our history, these weird moments in time where we hit this injury bug and guys start getting hurt and falling out. And it's happened a lot and throughout the years. But we're the best at dealing with it.
For sure. I do want to talk about the co-main event, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. Absolute banger of a fight right there. It could have been a really good Sphere fight too, but just like, what are you expecting out of that fight? Two great jiu-jitsu guys, but as we know, when a grappler is two grapplers, a lot of times it cancels out, and we're going to get a banger just throwing hands, right?
You are absolutely right. I could not agree with you more. And yes, we'll see how and who comes out of that fight. And yes, one of them could end up in the Sphere. And like I said, that's probably going to be the fight of the night, and if it's not, it will be the main event.
Obviously, with the light heavyweight championship on the line, do you anticipate the winner facing Magomed next? Is that something that I guess you guys are thinking of down the line?
I don't know. I don't even think about that stuff until the fight happens. It's going to depend on how the fight plays out, who wins, how banged up are they. There's a lot of different variables that go into that. So I don't even think about that till later.
Fair enough. I do want to also talk about the Sphere. There seems to just be so much hype around the card. You've said it's one and done, but with just all the hype surrounding it, have you kind of had a little bit of a change of thought in that?
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. If you haven't heard, I'm $17 million in on this thing.
Yep.
If you think about U2, they go in and spend whatever they spend. I don't know what they spent, but they amortize that cost over 40 shows. I'm going in one time, one night, one and done.
Gotcha. And obviously, I want to talk to you about Power Slap stuff. Obviously, first question is Paige Van Sant. Her being able to switch sports and everything. Just what do you think about her getting into Power Slap? And are we going to see more of this, of just different athletes from different sports trying Power Slap?
She's a beast. When you think about what she's done and accomplished in her life, she got into the UFC. She fought in bare knuckle. She professionally boxed. Now she's going to power slap. We were talking. She's done jiu-jitsu tournaments that she's been involved in. Dancing with the Stars. This girl has done everything, and she has absolutely no fear. And she's a competitor. Say what you want about Paige Van Zandt. And a lot of people say a lot of things. She's a little badass. You cannot deny that.
For sure. I did want to ask you a question about Power Slap as a whole. You've always said that it's deja vu between Power Slap and the UFC, but it just feels like Power Slap has grown so much at such a quick time. And I feel like part of that is the stars are starting to become household names, the Wolverines, the Crazy Hawaiians, the Turpins. My question to you is, what is the formula on just making these guys household names and marketing them up to be stars? Is it kind of the blueprint that you used for the UFC in the early days, or did you have to adjust a little bit?
It's the most successful thing I've ever been a part of in such a short amount of time. I mean, the numbers and the stats are off the charts. We have over 30 sponsors now. We have a huge rights deal with the youngest sports league to ever do a deal with Fanatics. We got trading cards coming out, apparel, etc. And the differences between the UFC and this and how fast this grew is social media. Social media didn't exist when we started the UFC. And this thing is a juggernaut on social media. And, the detractors and the people that like to talk about Power Slap, we had the same thing happen with the UFC in the early days. But here's the reality. Look at the number. We have over 15 million followers in 17 months. We have the most viewed, more views than Taylor Swift, the most viewed clips in all of sports. In the United States, I messed up talking about this one other time. I thought it was in the world, but soccer beats us. That's like one of the only things that beats us.
Right. World sport, understandable. That is something I did want to ask you. You mentioned social media being a big reason for it. In another interview, I heard you say that you and the Fertittas dreamed of having these streaming sites where the whole world can watch, basically. Now we're starting to see a lot more sports kind of adopt that. I mean, where do you see just the sports landscape in general with streaming and stuff down the line, maybe 10 years or so from now?
Yep. When I grew up, we had Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 8, Channel 13. Then cable came along, and there was like 33 channels. And then, with the addition of satellite and cable, you ended up having hundreds of channels. What's going to happen over the next several years is there's going to be a Channel 3, a Channel 5, a Channel 8, and a Channel 13 globally. The question is, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Disney? Is it going to be Amazon? Is it going to be YouTube? Netflix? The list goes on and on. But there will be. And the great thing about this when it happens is we will put on an event, whether it's Slap or UFC or Throw One or whatever it is, and everybody on earth can watch it at the same time on the same channel.
For sure. Netflix has already gotten the WWE involved with that, so that's a perfect example. Just two more questions for you. How soon can we expect more and more of the pieces of who's going to actually be on the card for the Sphere event for the UFC coming up?
Very soon. I'm doing a huge presentation here on Saturday. The TKO board of directors are coming in. I'm going to walk them through where their $17 million has gone. And then after I get all that stuff done, I'm going to start putting together the card.
For sure. And just last question. It feels like you've checked up a lot of boxes in terms of having fights in different venues here in Las Vegas. But sooner rather than later, do you think we'll be able to see a UFC event at Allegiant Stadium, for example?
It's interesting. I would never say no, but I don't like doing massive stadiums. I like arenas. Arenas are, especially as far as fights go. When you get in the stadium and you put the octagon in there, it's going to look like ants on a matchbox. You know what I mean? Here's one of the things that never happens. Nobody ever comes to a UFC live event and walks out and goes, oh, I don't ever want to come to one of these again. You know what I mean? There's an unbelievable experience. There's an energy inside the building that is unmatched in any other sport. And I think you lose some of that when you end up in a stadium.
Dana, that's all I got. I appreciate the time.